Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Cardsphere.com and Moxfield.com. We'll take a look at them later on in this video. So today we're going to be playing another one of Matt H's deck lists, who has sent in a bunch of bangers. And we're going to be playing with a Madness deck list today. Now, this is an archetype that is near and dear to my heart. I think it's a lot of fun, and it had a brief moment in Legacy of maybe about a month where it was one of the best decks in Legacy. And then people adapted, Endurance became much more popular, and the deck fell a little bit out of popularity. Generally speaking, the game is to discard our own hand for value and profit, using cards like Lion's Eye Diamond, which sometimes gets to function like a Black Lotus, or Faithless Looting to fuel the graveyard. We can return powerful hasty creatures like Vengevine to play, or otherwise put in some creatures that can come back from the graveyard. Most of the stuff that's here is normal, however, there is one pretty big piece of spice, and that's Scourge of Nel Toth. It's a 6/6 flyer for technically 7 mana, but we intend on casting this by paying 2 black and sacrificing 2 creatures rather than paying its mana cost. So we have Putrid Imp as a sort of repeatable discard outlet, and while we can just loop a couple of lizards into play and hope that they can go the distance, a lot of times our really cool plays are going to be fueled by Anji's Ravager. We can play something on turn 1, maybe crack a Lion's Eye Diamond, put that and maybe some other stuff into play, and then this can be a draw 3. Notably, it also does discard your hand, so if you have things that you want to get into the graveyard, that'll do some work. We can gamble for cards in some instances, and some of these we're just very comfortable with them going to our graveyard. Of note here, we also have Skyclave Shade in the deck list, which is a 3/1 with kicker that can't block. If it was kicked, it enters with 2+1/+1 counters. But the part that we care about is the landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, if this thing is in our graveyard, and it's our turn, we can cast it from our graveyard this turn. So we have a decent amount of recursion here, and we also have some incredibly aggressive starts. This deck is sometimes just played as a Gruul deck, a green-red deck, and when you do that, you'll often play some things like Street Wraiths and maybe Hollow Ones, or maybe Burning Inquiry to round out the deck list. As far as the sideboard goes here, most of it is stock, except for the $10,000 Spice card, which is Backlash. So we can tap an untapped creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to its controller, and boy, doesn't that sound sweet versus like a Murktide Regent or a Merit Lodge. Should this card be in the deck? Almost certainly not. Is it the sweetest possible card to play in a sideboard slot? Yeah, absolutely. Plus the art is really cool. Alright, I think with that being said, let's go ahead and go into this league here and see how this version of the deck list fares. If you're new here and you like what you see today, I have a bunch more Madness decks on the channel. Consider subscribing if you want to check those and other ones out. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Okay, doing a quick check on a card here. Vengevine is whenever you cast a spell, not whenever like a creature comes into play. This is a hand that could like do something cool with an LED on turn 1, like throwing a Bloodghast and a Basking Rootwalla into play, but then not actually do anything with the Vengevine. So I think this one is a mulligan. I think we can do better. This one's gonna be really good. I will be keeping this hand. What do I think about Once Upon a Time? So I'm gonna play a land drop. I'm going to crack LED for Anji's Ravager, casting Basking Rootwalla. I guess the Bloodghast is a little awkward. I won't be returning it immediately. If I Once Upon a Time, I can try to find like a second Ravager or a second Vengevine, which does sound really cool. Let's go for broke down that route. This is going to be a powerful opening hand. We're hoping not to see blue lands on the other side of the battlefield given a hand like this one. We don't really want to walk into a counter. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Land drop first because of days, probably. Let's cast a Once Upon a Time. Excuse me? Anger? Hello? Anger? Ah! Wow. Yes, I will take an Anger. I will cast a Lion's Eye Diamond. Based on legacy heuristics, this is a card that you should Force of Will. However, my opponent did not Force of Will it, and now I'm going to try to do bad things to them. I guess let's just immediately crack for red. Let's do it. So there is an Anji's Ravager. There is a Basking Rootwalla, which returns Vengevine. Yes. I'll now fetch, and I need to have a mountain to give me haste. I think Taiga sounds great. While I still have the mana here, I will go ahead and pump the Lizard. See if a Swords to Plowshares is happening. Oh, it's not. Oh. Alright, opponent is at 10 as of turn 1. I would call that dece. What a first turn of the game, folks. Okay, there's another land. I'll go ahead and just cast this, because I'm about to lose the rest of my hand when Anji's Ravager attacks anyway. So let's ship in with these. Discard two more Vengevines. Okay, this time we're getting a response. Okay, so we are probably playing against... Oh shit, we're playing against Rhinos. Okay, so this is going to cascade into 2 4/4s, which is pretty respectable, and they're going to be slightly larger than that this turn. By losing the Rootwalla or the Vengevine. Losing the Rootwalla. I can give this +2/+2. That's not exactly great. That occurs. That does put 2 more cards into my graveyard. I could get rid of Anger. I could get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and like 8 in some capacity, and then cast an Ox from my graveyard, drawing 3 cards, returning 2 Vengevines to play, having Ox. It's bad against a Force of Will, but otherwise it's probably pretty good. Alright, let's fetch a land. Grab a bad lands. Crack for red. I think I leave the other LED here. Play Ox. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with LED. Cast Ox. Take a draw 3. Cast Putrid Imp, which returns double Vengevine. Oh, this feels nice. Alright, good stuff. Also, discard a card to give this flying so that it can't be blocked next turn if that becomes relevant. Unless my opponent can make 2 more Rhinos right here, I imagine we're probably done. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was a pretty insane hand on my side of the battlefield. This is probably a board in 0 cards situation. Not like Pyroblast is fantastic here. I think I just try to run back the game 1 plan and see if it works out. I could play like an Assassin's Trophy or a Backlash in an attempt to get through opposing creatures. I don't know that it's good. And I don't know that I'm actually going to be able to realistically Firestorm for like X = 4 or something like that to get rid of a bunch of Rhinos. So I think game 1 plan is game 2 plan. Okay, this hand doesn't quite do anything as of right now. It might with a draw and Faithless Looting. I'm not sure that that's better than just mulliganing the first hand, though. I have so many hands that are just nuts. What do I gamble for with this hand? Vengevine, Ox, Ravager, generally speaking, are my good cards. I don't know that this one's a keep. Can't really discard my hand unless I do something like get an LED. I think I'd rather go to 5. I have very powerful hands that I, in theory, can find. This isn't one of them. On 5, though, this is probably a keep. I probably pitch 1 LED and 1 land. And just kind of hope to draw something broken off the top. I don't know that it's worth going to 4. Like, 5 is still a little rough. Okay, suspending Crashing Footfalls. That is not what I am looking to see, unfortunately. Badlands or Taiga here. Probably Badlands. Doesn't matter too much with 2 more fetch lands in play, though. So at any time, I can discard a Bloodghast and try to do something cool. But it's not that cool. comparison to other things that exist in this deck. I'm really hoping to like draw like an Anji's Ravager or equivalent here. Yeah? Yeah, that'll do. Let's discard a card. Give this thing flying. Just 2 creatures, right? It's not untapped or anything. No, just 2 creatures. Go ahead and crash in with Putrid Imp. Get my opponent to 18. Now, I have a Bayou, right? I do have a Bayou. Fetch that off of either fetch. That returns a Bloodghast. Do I want to pay for this with an LED? I don't think so. I think I just fetch now, even though it gives up some Bloodghast value. It gives me another land for if things kind of go wrong. Oh, fuck. This is only from my graveyard. Okay, so that was just factually a mistake. Ooh, okay. So that gets Force of Negation. The pitch there. Oh, it's another Force of Negation. Okay. So then we'll discard that via Putrid Imp instead. Go black, black. Sacrifice 2 creatures. I also could have had a Bloodghast in play here reasonably. Okay. Rhinos are coming, 2 turns away. Leyline Binding is a thing that can happen, and get rid of my cool friend. Yep, there we go. Card that saved Legacy. Alright, could have gotten an attack for 2 in this turn. Although I think I'm just going to lose to Crashing Footfalls at this point. I've kind of done my thing and my opponent stopped it, at which point they probably win the game. I also could be facing down something like a Minsc and Boo this turn, or a Shardless Agent into another set of Rhinos. Yeah. Ugh. Well, I'm going to also have to deal with Endurance in this deck list. I'm going to take 1 draw and then probably concede. Yeah, that's acceptable. Like, this is just 10 power on board, followed by another 8. I don't really have traditional combo hate here. So the plan is kill my opponent, and if it doesn't work, I die. I want 1 random Assassin's Trophy or something. No. It's really awkward that Pyroblast is my, like, deck for blue decks, and it's just very mediocre here. Okay. LED gets forced. Play LED. Anji's Ravager double Rootwalla. That's not bad. It won't get Leyline Binding immediately, and it plays around 1 force effect pretty well. It's one of those rare times where I'm pretty happy about a no-lander. Oh, wow. Okay. Both of those resolved. Crack for red. Force on Anji's Ravager is pretty rough. But I think if you have the Force Will, you're supposed to force LED. Alright, are you resolving? We're resolving. Means my other lizards are getting in here too. And I can't play Ox, I don't have enough cards in graveyard, I need 8, and I can't get to that number this turn. Now, if my opponent just makes 2 4/4s on their first turn, like, so be it. It'll suck for me. But this is 5 or more onboard power on turn 1. This is a very strong hand. Another Anji's Ravager. I guess I'm probably doing that. Timing here is a little awkward. Guess I am fine doing it now. I'll cast that. I'll pump the remaining mana into this lizard. And then I'll take a draw 3. They're acceptable cards. They're not great. They're just acceptable. Then I'll play a land, which returns a Bloodghast. And I'll play out another lizard. I'm expecting 2 4/4 Rhinos this turn. Otherwise, I don't know why my opponent kept their hand. Like, they can happen at my turn, on my turn. Like, that is a thing. I don't want to cast / can't cast either of these cards. So in we go. This is going to happen twice. We're going to get some madness going on. Past that, I'll discard all of these. I don't need to do anything at instant speed here. Vengevine to hand. That's not the zone that I want that card in. Hopefully it doesn't matter. Okay, yep. Was definitely expecting critters here. And here they come. So I'm going to lose both of my Anji's Ravagers here, but deal my opponent a pretty good amount of damage. I am fine with pumping the lizard here. All that said and done, my opponent is at 5. Can't cast Ox, I don't have red. I can't discard anything right now. I'm not exactly stuck, because I'm still, in theory, presenting enough damage that it's probably lethal. Or very close to it. Especially if I just hit a land. But, like, there are worlds where my opponent just produces 2 more rhinos in this turn cycle. And then things get tough. Oh. That's very good. That's very, 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 very good. Alright, cast an LED. Feels like a must counter card if my opponent has the possibility to do so. Let's make some red mana. Oh, Endurance is really bad for me. Lose out on Vengevine and Ox because of that. I'll get to cast an Anji's Ravager. And this card as well. I'll use my floating mana on one of these. If I go to combat this turn and 4 of my things get blocked, I only get 1 damage in. But I don't know that I'm really supposed to not attack here. Because if they don't have it, they're basically just dead. I don't know that I want to give my opponent time to cast more cards. Alright, they do have it. Which is unfortunate, but it's not like I really want to give them another draw for, like, Sorcery Speed Shardless Agent, right? If my opponent didn't also have Endurance, I think I just beat that pretty easily. Another draw 3 would have been absolutely disgusting. Alright, opponent's at 4. Bloodghast is something that can come back, and I have a draw 3 on my turn. Well, my opponent's big game right now is, like, deciding... Oh, fuck. Alright, with Anji's Ravager gone, I'm just dead. My opponent can probably attack for 8 here, and then kill me the following turn. Ooh, I don't know about the attack for 12. That seems ambitious to me. Yeah, they did settle on 8 instead. This I can only do the cool things with from the graveyard. I am dead on board, even if I block twice. That is very unfortunate. My opponent had Rhinos into Rhinos with Endurance as a pitch card to stop me. Top of the library was okay, but not insane. Today's video is sponsored by Cardsphere.com. Cardsphere is a service that allows you to buy, sell, and most importantly, trade your Magic cards with other people and game stores from around the world. As you can see here, they are doing a lot of business. They only take a very small fee, 3%, and if you decide you want cash instead of cards, you can also get paid out via PayPal for a small cut. P.S. They also have articles, so please consider checking them out. Okay, round 2. My opening hand, I think, is a classic example of a hand with lands and spells that doesn't actually do anything. So let's mulligan this and try to find something a little bit more unfair. Keep, discard Putrid Imp. This is the thing I can do that's unfair if I just totally brick on looting. I think that's okay. It's not exciting, though. Maybe lead on a Badlands here. And cast my Faithless Looting. It looks straight up like Reanimator. Alright, Ox goes to the graveyard. I probably bin 1 looting here. So there's 4 cards in my graveyard. This is 5. This is 6. Okay, we're playing against 8 cast. Oh. Not. Oh, it'll probably take me a turn or 2 to figure out what we're playing against. Do I gamble now? I think I'm looting now. I want a looting off of this land. I can still fetch Bayou later if I need to. So no, I don't think I do. Well, let's loot. We're hoping to find, like, a creature here. Okay. Discard Vengevine and land. Next turn I can play Putrid Imp, gamble for a Madness card, and then crash in with my creature. And maybe play Ox 2, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Or next turn I can just play Putrid Imp and Ox. So that's fine. Oh, there's so much thinking with this deck. I'm using so much more clock than I usually do. Mountain? I don't know exactly what we're playing against. I can get a Vengevine here. I can get a Vengevine here with my gamble. What is that? Yeah, this costs too much mana. We're playing against Omniscient Show and Tell. You play lands and cast spells from the top of your library once during each of your turns. You can cast a spell from hand or top of your library without playing its mana cost. Okay, sure. After that goes away, I don't want to necessarily gamble this turn. I can just play Ox. I can just play Ox. Ignore gamble. What the fuck am I doing with my life? I just fetched a non-red source. Ugh. Oh, that was a huge punt. So now I go for 50% chance of getting it into play this turn instead. Gamble for LED. Fail. Alright, I just gave up so much value. I'm very frustrated with myself. Sure. Welcome to things you will never do when you are paying full attention to a game. My opponent may just, like, sneak attack me this turn and I'll die, and, like, it doesn't matter that I made that misplay. That seems to be the case here. Alright, yeah. This is a Grizzlebrand that gets to draw 14. I don't imagine I survive that. Okay. My misplay probably didn't matter. Wow, that would have been a very bad draw 3. And I wouldn't have done any damage to my opponent. This wouldn't have had haste. Rough. So I can play Pyroblast here as a reasonable card, and I can get cute and play Backlash if I would like. Gamble's clunky. This is probably too fast of a matchup for the Skyclave Shade to matter. That starts getting me these Pyroblasts. From there, I probably shave a Bloodghast, and then I decide whether or not I want to try to play these. I don't think I do when I'm on the play, and I think I do when I'm on the draw. I think on the play, I just want to try to kill my opponent. Does this do that? It seems like this does that. LED, land, crack for black, cast, crack, return Bloodcast, sacrifice 2, make a 6/6 flyer. And the creatures have haste. Alright. Seems good. You have to fetch something that has a mountain. So, black, Lizard 1, cast Lizard 2, fetch. Probably want Badlands. Guess I draw Putrid Imp, question mark. Can be Taiga. I guess it doesn't matter much. Like, it needs to be red for Pyroblast. Like, that's the part that matters. I'll sacrifice this and this. I can pump the Blazing Rootwalla with my mana every turn. This is a pretty respectable 9 damage on turn 1, putting my opponent to 11. If they end up fetching, Bloodghast has haste. They did not. Even if they don't, like, this draw is going to shut off Ancient Tomb type things very quickly. Alright, there's land drop. Return Bloodghast. Okay. That was just a fast enough goldfish to win. Now on the draw, I think I'll play these backlashes. Bloodghast and Once Upon a Time are the weak links here. I think it's Bloodghast. This is probably a keep, but it's at the mercy of the Once Upon a Time. It will usually make at least a 6/6 flyer on turn 1. I think I call that fine. It can fail, but between my draw step and a look at a whole bunch of other cards, like, I think it's fine. Like, we're going to look at 6 cards to try to assemble something broken. No shuffle from my opponent. Pyroblast is very good. Let's sculpt this turn. The card that I am taking is Blazing Rootwalla. I just don't think I go for making a 6/6 on turn 1, because I have to play Putrid Imp or discard my hand in order to do that. And I think I hold up Pyroblast instead. Let's take a Rootwalla to set up for later. We'll play a land. I think I'm comfortable playing out the LED. It's a Force of Will. And now I will just hold up Pyroblast for this turn cycle. I was playing around kind of the scariest timeline in which my opponent just goes Soul Land, Show and Tell. Okay. No follow-up Ponder or anything. I'm supposed to hold up this Pyroblast It's just so incredibly painful to do so. So painful to do so. Alright. Womp. Future Imp. I guess I'm going to need to fetch a Taiga here to do what I want to do. Discard the Anger. Discard the Blazing Rootwalla. And cast that. This gets me some chip damage in this turn. While holding up the Pyroblast, I attempt to Pyroblast a Show and Tell. And then I have a hasty 6/6 flyer. I have unfortunately telegraphed the fact that I do have a Pyroblast by not pumping this. But that was probably pretty clear to my opponent already. Based on how this game is going, I don't know that I'm realistically going to have the mana for a Backlash. Even if I were to draw it. Okay. That is a disaster. Lose both of these. That's not counterable via Pyroblast. Probably discard this right now. I've got the LED as a discard outlet. I think that's just gotta go. It's so awkward if my opponent just has sneak attack after all of this. I can't cast this right now, realistically. I cast it end of turn if my opponent doesn't play a blue card that I care about countering. Brotherhood's End is really awkward. So, there is the Show and Tell. I'll attempt to counter it. Oh. Cool, it just worked. Okay, now I can attempt to Once Upon a Time for like an Anji's Ravager or something. And hope that I can do something really cool here. Ox is totally fine. Yeah, Ox is quite strong here. Crack for red. Pass my Madness card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Will be a draw 3. The Anger is still in my graveyard. Almost works. I have the wrong color mana floating. I want a 6/6 flyer or just the Ox. This is also 6 damage. It's split over more bodies. I think this is just acceptable. This just crashes in for 6. Then I can play Putrid Imp and attack with this next turn as well. Let's see if I die to sneak attack activate this turn. It's very possible that I just do. Alright, there's sneak attack. There's activate. Oh. That's not that bad. It's obviously annoying. It's a decent amount of damage, but if my opponent doesn't have another creature... sure. Sure. This is 13 damage. I'm not dead to it. But my opponent can do another draw 7. And it's hard for me to deal 14 to them on my turn. It's possible, but it's tough. Alright, goodbye creatures. That Lotus Petal can represent something else. So I'm 1 mana short of basically everything here. 1 mana short of Hardcast Ravager, 1 mana short of Putrid Imp into discard Ravager. I can only cast 1 spell this turn. I'll play a Putrid Imp and attack with it. I could deal 2 damage instead of 1, but probably just deal 1 and keep these cards in hand. If my opponent has another creature, I am just going to be dead to it, unfortunately. I am at 6, there's not a lot I can do to stop that here. You have it. Not immediately, but 3 more looks at creatures, or just another cantrip, almost certainly does it with this many cards in hand. Okay. Yep. Alright, I unfortunately have to concede to that. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a deck building website, and I've got my Zonksha EDH deck list pulled up here. In addition to just keeping track of, say, what cards you do and don't own, there's a lot more functionality here. You can see the chances of playing various cards on curve, you can take a look at your mana curve, the number of symbols in your deck, or you could even look at sample opening hands and even playtest with the deck itself. Today, on Phil's channel, we asked the question, how much do I believe in Once Upon a Time? As long as I find any creature between my draw step and Once Upon a Time, this is at least 3 attacking Vengevines on turn 1, probably also a 6/6 flyer. I'm going to keep this hand, and if shit goes south, shit goes south. Opponent is mulliganing to 4. Alright. They're up first. Probably playing against Reanimator. Anji's Ravager. We're doing it. So I can't do two Anji's Ravagers, but Anji's Ravager did give me the second creature that I need. Do I want a land for later? Do I want a second Scourge in the graveyard? I probably want a land for later. Alright. Land. LED. Rack for red. Cast Anji's Ravager. Madness cast Basking Rootwalla. Triggers. That's 3 Vengevines that all get to attack this turn once everything is said and done. Yeah. Okay, so presumably we are playing against Reanimator. My Leyline of the Voids are good. My Backlash is playable, although I don't know that I want cards like these. I just want to kill my opponent, and these cards don't technically kill my opponent. So, Gamble out, Shade out. These are something that's kind of really big, and I'm a little bit afraid of my opponent just discarding me and then reanimating this, whereas I'm not so much afraid of my opponent reanimating the rest of the cards in my deck. Like an Anji's Ravager or an Ox is annoying, but it's not game over. I think I cut these despite the fact that they're theoretically good, and roll with the deck like this. This is a weak hand that has Leyline of the Void and the ability to get better. I think I will keep this. Opponent has once again kind of mulliganed into the abyss. See what they have. Nothing immediately. Let's once upon a time try to smooth out this hand a bit. Anji's Ravager, Bloodghast. I probably just take a Bloodghast here. Then we'll go ahead and fetch our own, probably Badlands. I'll probably Taiga since I have basic Swamp. Grab Taiga and loot away the Bloodghast. I want to just get this into play. I think I'm okay with missing out on 1 point of damage to potentially get a Vengevine into play next turn. See if my opponent plays something like a Serenity this turn to answer my Leyline. No. So let's cast Faithless Looting. That was very bad. Discard 2. Play a land drop. That returns a Bloodghast. Go ahead and fetch a maybe Bayou. Play a Putrid Imp. And at instant speed on my opponent's turn, I can make a Basking Rootwalla. I'm probably attacking in for sad amounts of damage. I'm just kind of accepting that, like, Vengevine isn't happening. I'm just relying on Leyline of the Void to buy me the time that I need. And I think my mana is just going into this. Ooh, that is probably good enough to just cast. I can cast that at instant speed for 2 mana, so I can play Putrid Imp as well. Alright, send them. Alright, my opponent goes to 15. I'll play a fetch land. Play a Putrid Imp. I will go ahead and just fetch a land out here, so I can just, like, not have to deal with a random removal spell. Alright, opponent is making some moves. There is the Scrubland. Ooh, it is a Terror. We could see an Entomb here. We do. It's a Grizzlebrand. That feels wrong to me. If my opponent has... Wow, I have nothing. I have no creatures in my graveyard. Wild. Anyway, if my opponent has Sarah's Emissary, I'm just stone cold dead to my opponent putting that into play. Although it could be in their hand. That might not be a misplay. Okay, so how much damage do I actually have? Like, do I have greater than 7 damage? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, I do. I am fine with attacking. Let's discard this. Cast this. See what my opponent discards. Another Leyline of the Void. Really doing me any good this turn. I don't need to give this flying. Send them. More Anji's Ravagers coming. Alright, so that blocks happens. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Deal my opponent 3, 4, 5. Put them to 2. I think it's just better to make a new Anji's Ravager. Alright. Things not looking great. The Grizzlebrand is in play. We're trying to avoid this. I will go ahead and take the 7. Going to 10. The opponent making an Archon is annoying. If it's just that, I think it's okay. Oh, okay, sure. So, oh, then there's an Exhume. I will respond to that. I will discard an Anji's Ravager. Will not cast it. I'll just let it go to graveyard. And I'll Exhume that. Now, when this Archon of Cruelty trigger happens, I'll sacrifice probably the Bloodghast. I'll discard the Anji's Ravager, and then I will hardcast this one. Alright, opponent's at 17. Life's pretty bad. Let's see how much more my opponent can do. There is more, but it seems like it's just Faithless Looting. Yeah, that's fine. There is another Archon of Cruelty in graveyard. Uh-huh. Reanimate my Bloodghast. I don't know that... Oh, I see. It's the same as before. Well, I will discard a Bloodghast to get something out of this Exhume. Oh, I see. They're just going for a Grizzlebrand to make my combat math awful. There's a Vengevine. I don't know that I can really win through 4 blockers here. I don't think I can play the defensive game against Archon of Cruelty. So let's go for Faithless Looting and see if I can turn this into something reasonable. I cannot. Guard Vengevine. Faithless Looting. Give a Putrid Imp flying. Let's see if there's something that I'm missing. Fandom, no fear. That is a bad set of cards. I will make the other one fly for reasons. Anger and Vengevine. That's not gonna do it. At this point, I am comfortable conceding. Do I want Backlash? I might. It's expensive, but it's really strong. Yes. Alright, I will start with the Leyline in play. Let's Once Upon a Time immediately and get a feel for what this hand is going to do. This is not great, actually. So I kind of missed on the small creatures that I need in order to make this hand pop off. I think this is Badlands, so that I can cast Putrid Imp if I draw it. I'm definitely a little bit scared of my opponent just, like, thought-seizing me, taking my Anji's Ravager, and reanimating it. Alright, good call on my end. Alright, discard double Vengevine. If I get to cast this Putrid Imp and Blazing Rootwalla, I will win the game because I will be attacking with 3 Vengevines immediately. Oh, no play from my opponent here. It is weird. Putrid Imp discards the other Vengevine. Putrid Imp discards a Rootwalla. And I will try to return 3 of these. Alright, looks like it's happening. Very nice. 12U. I'm a little unsure what the keep here was. We've gotten the GGs. With any land, I have an absurd amount of power. With any madness creature, I have a strong hand. But I think I just brick a little bit too often for this to be reasonable. I'd rather not risk it. That doesn't actually do anything despite having a good mix of lands and spells. We're going to 5. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. This gets Vengevine into play on turn 1, while also putting a Bloodghast into graveyard for the future. This is easily the best hand so far, despite the fact that it may have some issues. It also has a decent number of very strong top decks, but will be very soft to Force of Will on LED. Alright. Will it resolve? Don't daze me. Oh shit, they didn't daze me! Crack for red. Blizzard 1. Blizzard 2. Put a Vengevine into play. Blizzard 2 resolves. I will cast the Faithless Looting. It can just dump some stuff into my graveyard. I'm not actually going to get to... What? What? But this card is so good. Also, opponent is playing Ethereal Forger. So that's the thing. Alright, opponent goes to 15. I have a decent amount of power in play, but I have very little agency on the next portion of the game. Like, my opponent can lightning bolt this, and then I'm slowed down a lot, for example. But we'll see how it goes. Yes. We'll do this pre-combat so that if my opponent doesn't block this lizard, I get more damage. Send him. I can cross this out. I will remember that. Okay. We getting bolted. We're brainstorming. I don't know how I feel about the timing of that brainstorm. Okay, we are just going to trade here. That means I don't have to crack this fetch this turn. My opponent can just eat 5 damage. So I wonder if this is just like the 5th Murktide Regent, or if my opponent's deck is built around that effect. I'll probably find out pretty quickly. That is a pre-fetch brainstorm. My opponent had brainstormed previously. This is not looking good for my opponent. Even if they find Swords to Plowshares here, they're still taking at least 3 more damage, yeah. Yeah, my opponent lost that game for not countering Lion's Eye Diamond. Which is 100% a thing you do if it's the Madness matchup, and like maybe a thing you don't do if it's not the Madness matchup. But I don't know. I would have countered that spell after my opponent mulliganed to 5. Playing against a blue deck, it seems like a Jeskai Delver deck of some variety. The Pyroblasts are probably fine. My go-to here to board out has been Gamble. This brings it to hand, right? I have to cast it. Or no, it lets me cast it from graveyard. That's okay, but is mana intensive. Against a bunch of counterspells, I might not want these. They just take away my onboard lizards and bloodghasts and stuff. But they are 6/6 flyers, which is bigger than a lot of my opponent's stuff, and they, actually fly. Go Skyclave out, that gets me the first 2 Pyroblasts. And then, I don't know what I cut for the third. I cut the second Anger. Cut the second Anger. How is this hand? I don't think impressive. Like, I could play this fair game that wants to hardcast 2 Anji's Ravagers. I'm not sure that I want to play a fair game. I think I'd rather play an unfair game and have 2 chances at it. I would keep a hand like this on 6, but not on 7. Is this fine? I don't really think this is fine. I'd rather go to 5 and try to do something strong. This is the best so far. Is turn 1 Putrid Imp into turn 2 Anji's Ravager? Probably binning Looting and one of these 2 cards. I think Rootwalla. I think this is the best hand so far, but it's a little hard to tell. More land is not the best. What do I want? Probably Badlands. I don't know if Putrid Imp is going to... Yeah. Opponent got the memo the first time around after they lost to it. Forced the thing that lets me pitch cards. Ooh. Swords is good versus this Anji's Ravager. I'm on a flying clock now. I also might need to, like, play around Stifle. It feels like Stifle is the sort of bad card that might be in this deck. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I don't know how good my options are actually going to be to play around it as of right now. For sure. I'm going to take 3 more here. I'm at 13. The Imp's actually okay. I am going to start by fetching my lands to see if I do get stifled. Yep. Aiga and Bayou separately. Alright, fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in graveyard as of right now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play Putrid Imp. I'm going to pass the turn. When my opponent goes to Swords to Plowshares this, I'm going to put in an Anji's Ravager, which is the card that I actually care about. Oh, they didn't Swords it. That's actually very interesting. So this can turn it into a flyer, or can't really block the Delver and still do other cool things. Go ahead and just take the hit here. Alright, my opponent has a Stoneforge Mystic. That is a problem. And a Batter Skull. So let's see if I can do something real cool with this Anji's Ravager. I'm not equipped to deal with a Batterskull with the cards that are currently in my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ox is the 7th card in graveyard, so I can't. I also can't get 8 cards in graveyard immediately. Alright, there's land drop. Guard Anger to make this fly. Go to combat. Bash in, discard Ox, pick up some new cards. Opponent goes to 14. Now, do I want to Once Upon a Time or Looting? 1, 2, 3, 4. Get rid of Anger. 5, 6, 7, 8. I might be dead to Caldra. I think I want a Once Upon a Time. Found a Vengevine and a Scourge of Nel Toth. That's actually really good right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can cast both of my big things. There's LED. Fetch. Grab Badlands. These are both Badlands. I think at this point I'll go ahead. I guess I have 1 extra mana. I could Faithless Looting first. Or no, I have red, black, black. I can't. Okay. Let's crack this for black, and then Ox with my red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll get rid of the looting. 8. Done. Ox. Draw 3 cards. And then play a 6/6 flyer. Sacrificing. But wait. I can actually discard Vengevine here. Then do this. Sacrificing these turn. These 2, returning the Vengevine. Okay. Well, that was a fucking turn. I've got the superior board. My opponent could just have Caldra, and nothing that I did matters. But they don't. Alright, now I have Anger, Anji's Ravager, and Once Upon a Time. I have a lot of things to think about here. My opponent has a Batterskull. My opponent is at 14. My opponent blocks Vengevine effectively at 18. At 11, I can swing 14 easily. Anji's Ravager attacking isn't actually all that good this turn. Into the Batterskull. So let's actually start here. It's another one. I can just do that as, like, pseudo-vigilance. Oh, actually, this is really cute, isn't it? Oh shit, I can't discard it. I can't discard it right now. Oh wait, I can when this attacks? If it attacks? I could attack with everything, discard the Scourge, and then sacrifice 2 creatures to play another one of these. Then I'm not just dead on the backswing. That sounds good. Alright. Fetch. Oh, I don't have the black for that plan. This isn't free. I don't have an LED this time. Lightning Bolt is also a thing now that I fetched. I can just hold this back and force the Batterskull trade. Then play this post-combat. That's reasonable. Could also attack with this. And I still have a blocker for the Batterskull if they don't trade it. Then I'm dead to more removal spells. No, I'll just attack like this. This is fine. What the fuck? Wasn't I deterministically dead to Caldra plus attack on my turn, on their turn? Right? I thought I was deterministically dead to that, which is why I didn't play around it. Alright, there's an Anji's Ravager. Okay, sure. Right, like that was just 9 effectively unblockable damage. I would have to go back and double check it, but I thought I was just dead to Caldra. So I have to block this here, and then I may or may not actually be able to kill my opponent. Alright, sure. I'm at 2. 7 cards in graveyard, which means 6 other than the Ox. That's very good. So cast a Faithless Looting. Sure. So I'm going to discard 2 cards, meaning that there's 9 cards in graveyard. I cast Ox. I can deal 9 damage. Is just short. Oh, but I can cast Putrid Imp and Ox, and then that does it. So discard this and this. Play Putrid Imp. Play Ox. Red, red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Assuming this resolves. In theory, lethal. So I'm fine going to 1. Increase the amount of damage that I do here. Oh, wait, shit. My last land is mountain, isn't it? Last land is mountain. I don't actually have the red for that. Crash in. My opponent still have this swords from earlier. So, yeah. And it's all for naught. Go to 6. I'm dead on the back swing. Alright, that's fine. So, I don't know. Once they untap and put in that Batter Skull, and I, like, block again, I don't know that I really win. So, do I want to play, like, Ancient Grudge or Firestorm here? Given what I've seen. The issue is that Ancient Grudge doesn't actually answer Cauldra. I'm also now less sold on Pyroblast. Like, it's good against Delver and the Whale. Not really good against, like, Stoneforge. Whereas Firestorm and, like, Ancient Grudge are. Anger might be important when I'm on the play as well. Just closing out this game quickly seems pretty reasonable. Do this like this. What does this hand do? Fetch. The Black Source. LED as effectively a bait spell into this on turn 1. It's not great versus Swords of Plowshares. Hand's probably a keep. So let's start on LED. Okay, that means no Force of Will, because they would have forced that after how badly they got punished previously. Badlands. Putrid Imp. Guard Rootwalla. And cast it. Guard Rootwalla. And cast it. I guess from there it doesn't super matter. Crack for black. Sacrifice this one, and I think I actually sacrificed the Putrid Imp here, so that I have the thing that can attack for more power in play. We're pretty dead to Swords to Plowshares, but we will probably outclock most fair stuff, so it's just like, did they have swords in their opener? Yep, alright. This is effectively the GG point of this game, unfortunately. Like, I kept a very good all-in hand, and my opponent had the specific answer that they needed. Which happens. I even got to, like, play out the LED as a bait spell first to just, like, check before, like, 100% going all in. I can still recover from here, technically, but I shouldn't. Like, there's no reason that I should be able to win this game from here. Okay. Ending is fine. That's a card that I hadn't seen up until this point. Delver's kind of whatever. I would love to top deck a land and play this. That basically counts. I can now do this on my opponent's turn, potentially in combat, to snipe a Delver. That's fine. I'm not going to do this now. I will give them more looks at a counterspell, but I'm not willing to telegraph this information ahead of time. Surgical Extraction, and then they're going to fetch it away. Sure. There's a Forager. It is really strong. I expect that I'm now dead. I've boarded out the Pyroblasts given how the last game went. Then I got super punished by not having outs to this when my opponent had one early. Although, honestly, that's not the thing that punished me. The thing that punished me was my opponent's Swords to Plowshare, which they naturally had in their opener. I'm comfortable conceding here. Like, with nothing in my graveyard and my opponent about to return Swords to Plowshares, it's just not happening. Okay, final round. This hand's kind of whatever. I'm not sure if it's a keep or not. Can't really Anji's Ravager until turn 3 as of right now. It's got a looting and a Once Upon a Time to try to smooth things out. I think I'll keep it, but it's very possible that this hand kind of whiffs, and it's very possible that this isn't better than a Lion's Eye Diamond-based hand. But let's keep it and see what happens. We're potentially playing against 8 cast. Seems like that is likely. On an Urza Saga start. Honestly, I think I'm just dead to that. As stupid as that sounds. I think that's just going to go construct that's bigger than my stuff, and my opponent gets Shadow Spear. We'll try to beat it. I have to do something unfair. Second Anji's Ravager isn't doing a lot. This is the card I want, but they don't let you take LED off of that card. Let's looting and try to set up something cool. Okay. Anger goes away. Skyclave Shade goes away. And I think I'm in trouble. Like, assuming my opponent plays no other artifacts and they just play Ancient Tomb. We have a 3/3 followed by 2 5/5s. That's just how that math is going to work out. And given how many artifacts are in their deck, I am expecting them to play more. Also, since I fetched Badlands and then drew double Basking Rootwalla, I actually can't just double spell with Basking... Oh, that seems like a mistake. Wow. That seems very wrong to me. I don't know their hand, but I now feel like I'm not dead, and I felt like I was dead 2 seconds ago. Like, that has just vastly decreased the artifact density of my opponent's hand. Yeah, there's the Ancient Tomb that I knew was coming. Oh my god, why did you crack the bauble? Did you not have an Ancient Tomb? Like, was that a real risk there or something? I just play a 3/1. I'm honestly just potentially about to eat a Tormod's Crypt. Casting this looting isn't necessarily the best. Yeah, let's do this. And I'll just grab a Taiga now. This will be hasty, though it will not be impressive. My opponent's at 17. They'll be at 15 after Ancient Tomb. And then probably either Shadow Spear or Tormod's Crypt or equivalent will beat me. It's probably not a Tormod's Crypt. It's probably, like, actually a Soul Guide Lantern. But, like, we'll see which angle my opponent is taking this. Yep, Shadow Spear. Again, though, I could be facing down 2 5/5s or larger this turn. Or more accurately, 2 7/7s if my... That seems wrong. Like, unless you already have more artifact mana in hand, like, just equip that Shadow Spear, crash in for 6, lifelinking damage against an aggro deck. Okay. They did. They found it. I don't have, like, Meltdown in this build, do I? Oh no, I do have Meltdown. I have 1 Meltdown, 1 Ancient Grudge. Consider Pyroblast. Opponent, you can roll your face on the keyboard, and you are going to beat me. Please take an action. I'm so fucking dead. Alright, yes. Alright. I'm at 13. They're back to 19. I can't attack easily through this 5/5. I don't know how I win. Guess discard you too. Pass the Rootwalla. 6 cards. This will be a 7th card in graveyard. Doesn't matter too much which of these I do right now. So we'll return a Vengevine to play. This is going to give me some more chump blockers. And this potentially buys me a little bit of time to do something cool next turn. Can't really send my creatures in here. I'm flirting too closely with the lethal damage line. Like, my opponent has, what, 1, 2, 3. My opponent has 5 artifacts in play, so Thoughtcast already costs 1 mana, and Thought Monitor's not too far away from that as well. Okay, they're bigger. Your Pithing Needle resolves. Basking Rootwalla has been neutered. Crime against humanity. Oh, it's a Kappa. Sure. That's fine. That kills me next turn. So I guess I just take the full 9 here and try to somehow deal 17 damage to my opponent. Or, sorry, it's 25 damage to my opponent. JK. So there is an anger. I need, like, Once Upon a Time into Putrid Imp or something like that. And then, I don't know. Something. Let's cast a Once Upon a Time. Bloodghast and Anji's Ravager. None of that's gonna do it. I am comfortable conceding here. I was pretty sure I was dead much earlier than that. I could backlash my opponent. That's legitimately not a bad thing to do. I don't really want Gamble. I don't really want Shade. That gives me these two cards. Backlash and Pyroblast are playable. When I'm on the play, I might just want to kill my opponent. The Bloodghasts aren't exactly amazing. Yeah, maybe when I'm on the draw, I play Backlash to help with like Kappa Cannoneer and Urza Saga. I could play Pyroblast as cheap interaction over Bloodghast or Scourge. Scourge is still pretty reasonable when I'm on the play, though. And, like, the Pyroblast type effects aren't great if I'm trying to discard my hand. Let's try to kill my opponent while I'm on the play and be a little more reactive when I'm on the draw. Ah, haha, it has the Meltdown in the opening hand. Doesn't really do anything. I think I keep it. It's just really weird. Do I cast Once Upon a Time on turn 1? I'm maybe just supposed to wait a turn on that. It's probably fine to cast it on turn 1. I don't know that I play out my LED, though, because of Meltdown. Putrid Imp. I think that's better than Vengevine, given that I have this. Let's grab a Badlands, and then play the Imp. I'm probably a creature away from doing something relatively strong at this point. Okay. My opponent is going down an Emery route. The Meltdown is significantly less cool. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Alright, so they're just bobbling. So I have to try not to use my LED so that I can play Meltdown a little bit later, I think. Ugh. This is incredibly unfortunate. I think I'm just dead. Like, my opponent starting on an Emery hand and me blanking on my first draws was kind of the recipe for disaster here. I probably have to Meltdown no matter what next turn, just to keep Kappa Cannoneer from coming into play immediately. What a punish. Okay, that's fine. Actually, thought I was about to get Kappa'd. Currently not getting Kappa'd. There is a Thought Monitor, which is pretty inconvenient, as it's just like card advantage and something that survives the Meltdown. I should have mulliganed this hand. It's so good against so many of the like other artifact vomit hands, especially with the Once Upon a Time and like 2 or 3 draw steps to find something else. Feels reasonable. Alright, opponent draws a card. Have an Anger. That doesn't really do anything right now. I will just play another land. I just need to melt down. Just make this Kappa Cannoneer worse. This is CMC of 2 since X is 1, so this does not get countered by Chalice of the Void. But because of the Emery, this doesn't really actually accomplish anything. That is disappointing. Yeah, I've played this deck a couple times on the channel now, and I just kind of feel like it's gotten power crept out of Legacy. And that happened pretty damn quickly, too. Sure. Yep. So they're cracking it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they've still just got Kappa Cannoneer next turn anyway. See if I eat 2 damage this turn. I would be attacking if I was the opponent. Oh, that's fine. Need to get another creature into play so that I can make this 6/6 and maybe give it haste. But I have whiffed. And now that Kappa Cannoneer just gets to come into play and start scaling up, I don't think I can realistically win anymore. I am comfortable conceding here. It's not happening, folks. Alright, so this was a 1-4 league. It did not go well. Let's kind of figure out why it didn't go well. I don't necessarily think it is the specifics of this deck list. Like, I don't think the fact that, like, this is a Jund build that is playing around with some things that are normally not in the deck is the reason that we didn't do well. I think the reason that we didn't do well is that this deck just isn't well positioned in Legacy anymore. There was a time in Legacy where there was a lot of combo, and that combo was somewhat reliant on their life total, with things like Ad Nauseam, like, being things that were relevant in the format that aren't really too relevant anymore. And when there was a lot of combo, this pure aggro deck just coming in and saying, like, you are pressured and your life total can't be used as a resource, like that was a thing for a little while in Legacy. And now Prismatic Ending is another early answer to things like the Putrid Imps and the Rootwallas. Source of Plowshares is common. Lightning Bolt is common. Cards like Murktide Regent and Minskenboo that can just quickly pivot a game are common. Sweepers are picking up in popularity, be it Supreme Verdict, Brotherhoods, and Terminus because of the initiative decks. I just don't think this is an acceptable time to be playing this general strategy. Like the meta strategy of playing any sort of Madness Madvine deck list, I don't think is super viable anymore. And that's not to mention the fact that like Endurance is just absolutely everywhere, as it's great graveyard hate, it's very good versus Delver, and also has application versus Doomsday, which is one of the other like playable combo decks in the format. I would not play this deck again right now. If you were to play the deck again, I'm not sure whether or not I recommend this build. Specifically, like, this is something that's very bad versus Swords to Plowshares, and white removal is very common in like the Bant control and 4-color control deck lists right now. And the initiative deck is also using white removal. So I don't know that I want to be on this versus Hollow One right now, but like this is definitely a card that I like want to be aware of in the future when I build these deck lists. So this one gets a thumbs down from me today, but we had some very, very powerful hands. So while this is a deck list I don't think is going to cut it at the competitive level, I think something like this is still totally reasonable for like your legacy FNM. It just felt a little bit inconsistent. Maybe the deck wants the fourth Once Upon a Time. Maybe you want to go deeper on Gamble. Maybe I shouldn't have sideboarded out the Gamble as many times as I did. You know, food for thought. There's stuff here. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't thrown me a like already, please do so on the way out. It helps out a lot, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!